The story of our beloved bus driver is a bit of a mystery. His origins, his purpose, and where his story concludes is not definitively told to us. So I figured I'd take a step back and do my best to put together a coherent explanation of everything we know about T.E.D.D. T.E.D.D was originally designed by the government in the Pentagon in 1963, with the blueprints left pinned to the board and the map classified. We see that T.E.D.D was still a work in progress. He struggled to behave appropriately with employees and for whatever reason was programmed with emotions and consciousness. More on that later. T.E.D.D was known for terrifying employees, using explicit language and kicking employees off the bus or even locking bus doors and refusing entry. He would skip stops and most importantly, providing unwanted opinions with a side of sarcasm.
I'd warn you about this place, but I doubt you'd listen. Peer out the windows in terror as we navigate the broken bridge. This bus is out of order. A replacement driver has been notified and will be here in approximately 123 years. We're all... Farewell. I hope you enjoyed your journey with us. May I suggest you run?
Because he was terrifying employees, there was a request put in to cover the robotics with synthetic skin. Now, who are these employees that we kind of keep mentioning here? They are employees of the Broken Arrow program, a program created by the US government with the primary goal of preventing any future undead outbreak since the incident in the Pentagon, also known as the MAP 5. Eventually, the Groom Lake program in Nevada combined with Broken Arrow near the Hanford site. We know this as Green Run. Green Run is actually a reference to the US government's failed experiment near Hanford that caused the release of an insane amount of radiation back in December 1949. Anyways, it was T.E.D.'s goal to transport the employees of Broken Arrow around from place to place, with the bus being supplied by the Colorado facility. Sometime later, Broken Arrow goes up in flames in what is thought to be intentional in order to get rid of any proof that they were involved in a zombie outbreak, leaving the bus there at the facility to kind of just chill out for a while as the world fell apart. Eventually the bombs hit, the world goes to shit, and Russman, a previous employee at Broken Arrow who can't seem to remember anything, ends up coming across the bus with our beloved friend T.E.D.D. They travel for a while, and after some time passes, they pick up Stuhlinger. After making their way to Green Run, they find Misty and Marlton in a diner, leading us right into the events of Tranzit. Now, there's a few things to touch on here. It's not specified if T.E.D.D was already attached to the bus, or if Russman found him at the facility and attached T.E.D.D to the bus himself. It's also important to remember that this T.E.D.D was not the final version, but is in fact a prototype, as we still see he comes with all of the defects mentioned in the Pentagon blueprints. T.E.D.'s job here is to guide the Victus crew from place to place and give the crew enough time to stop and get whatever they need so they can travel to their next destination safely. During this time, we get a bit more insight into T.E.D. and what he was programmed for. He mentions Yellowstone Park.
Yellowstone Park. Step off the bus to see beautiful Yellowstone Park.
And Hawaii.
Attention passengers, next bus stop is the island of Hawaii. We're all going to drown.
With him mentioning these locations almost as if he's a tourist guide at national parks or national points of interest. This leads me to believe that he was going to eventually be mass-produced and used for more than just transporting Broken Arrow employees. More on this later. The time spent on the bus with T.E.D. also shows us that he is aware of his surroundings.
Secluded wooded areas perfect for hiding corpses or quiet murders coming right up. Prepare to disembark and be eaten. Falling down death trap of a rotten bridge ahead. Been there, done that. Keep fucking with me. See if I don't crash this bus and kill you all. Farewell. I hope you enjoyed your journey with us. May I suggest you run?
Not only is T.E.D. aware of his surroundings, but he reacts to the player in the same way the classified blueprints mentioned, where if you melee him or shoot him enough, well...
Door privileges have been fucking revoked.
T.E.D. is the gang's transportation while they do their quests and eventually end up disappearing from Green Run. Now, this is where T.E.D.'s story ends, kinda. We are left to assume that T.E.D. drives endlessly through the darkened path of Green Run, driving down the same route of fallen structures, abandoned buildings and cars, and a town deteriorating in lava until he eventually falls victim to his surroundings or runs out of power, spending the rest of his life out of service and losing all consciousness. But that's not actually where the story ends for Ted. Like I said, kinda, as he is far bigger than just one unit. In fact, there are dozens of TED units out there, one of which the Victus crew comes across in a pile of junk. Unsure where all of the other units are, we do know that there is another active unit in the Broken Arrow Camp Edward, where his purpose is to act as a lounge attendant. This expands the list of occupations that Ted was designed to fill. As one could imagine, the list for Ted's possible roles could be limitless. He could be a cashier, he could be a hotel receptionist, or even, if he wanted to, a radio show talk host. In fact, Alpha Omega mentions this just a little bit, but here we notice that he is still once again a prototype unit. It seems as if there was never really a finalized version of Ted developed. But around the campsite we can see dozens of robotic mannequins with a type of synthetic skin that almost shows us what a truly finalized Ted would have looked like. This Ted shows us just as much personality as the other unit, so I'll show you some of his best lines in dialogue to demonstrate that.
Be advised, children are not permitted in the lounge because they f***ing piss me off. Good news, I'm detecting a Nova 6 gas leak in the lounge. So soon we'll all be dead and my nightmarish existence will end. As a friendly reminder, everyone's dead! Time to panic! Ah! Lounge privileges have been fucking revoked. Keep testing me, buddy. Just watch what happens. Assaulting the lounge attendant is a Class F felony. In this case, the F stands for fuck you. Happy with your lounge attendant's performance? Pay him a compliment. Buy him a beer. Maybe give him legs and free him from institutionalized slavery.
Now, I've said more on that later twice, and I've mentioned a bit of Alpha Omega, but this is where we discuss those things, and how Alpha Omega further confuses the lore surrounding Ted. Alpha Omega suggests that the Atom Initiative that took place at Camp Edward was designed to research automated servants for public use. As mentioned before, the list of occupations these units were designed to fill could be very long, implying that they were meant to be used in homes and businesses, probably at no additional cost, as they wouldn't really need a salary or food or even sleep to function. The results were really positive for all the test units, thus leading the government to the idea that they could create militarized variants of Ted and other robots to complete dangerous tasks and prevent further outbreaks. According to Marlton, some internet forums said that some of the units started to show more human emotion, which is a bad thing when they don't want to take on these military actions at the risk of getting hurt. Furthermore, we discover that these robots were not just programmed to have emotion, but the elemental shard was giving each of the robotics a unique soul, which explains why Ted is able to get so upset in the first place rather than just being accepting and approving. So obviously some of this lore starts to almost contradict itself, so I'm going to do my best to make sense of it. I assume that the Atom Initiative took place first, where Ted was originally designed by Broken Arrow at Camp Edward. They then sent out prototypes to serve the public, where they had incredibly positive reviews. So Broken Arrow decided to send a few units to the Pentagon so they could help program the robot to work for the military and carry out specific orders of defense against the undead. The Pentagon successfully rigged each robot to obey military commands and sent them back to Camp Edward. Once back at Alpha Omega, this is where the elemental shards started to act up and give each of the robots souls of their own, giving them their own consciousness and emotions and personality, leaving us with the versions of Ted that we love most. I don't know if this is entirely accurate, but it's the most sense I could make out of it when two maps in the same game kinda contradict itself. Regardless, I did my best here to explain the lore of one of Zombie's most unique side characters. Going this balls to the wall just to develop the backstory for a robot with funny quotes is exactly the reason why I love COD Zombies so much. This is my first ever video covering any sort of lore in Zombies, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing. I spent a lot of time reading through a ton of forums and listening to quotes for this, so I hope it was worth it in the end, and thank you guys for watching. Anyways, Black Ops 6 comes out soon. Looking forward to seeing you guys there. Alright, so until then, piss off everybody.